Hello, everyone, and welcome to Breathe Motivation. My name's Anthony Hester. I am the host for this show. So glad to join you guys today. I wanted to give a quick thank you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you guys so much for tagging me on social media. I greatly appreciate that. I love seeing all the feedback that you guys have. I love when you guys reach out to me in messages and all that great stuff, tagging me in your stories about how you've listened to an episode and how it helped you. I'm completely and utterly grateful and honored that you guys share that stuff. And I'm glad that I'm able to use this platform, just for my own personal experiences and things I've gone through in my life and, just conversations I've had with family and friends and coworkers and everything. I'm grateful that I can be on here and do something positive. So I wanted to say thank you guys so much. I know you guys might have, I hope you guys never get tired of hearing that, but I'm greatly appreciative of you guys. So thank you guys so much for sharing this with your family, your friends, and all that stuff. I greatly appreciate it. So thank you. And today I wanted to talk about something that, I tell you guys all the time how I get inspired by these for the shows. And, this one came from a book. It's The Magic of Thinking Big. And I've read this book before. I've heard it, I listened to it on an audiobook. I have a physical copy, all that good stuff. And it's amazing when, these things happen. It's like I picked up this book because I just needed it at the time. And it's weird how that works. And maybe we can kind of just make that up that, hey, I needed to hear this at that time. But I don't think that's how it works. I really think that it's you pick up the things that you need. A lot of the times if I'm listening to the radio or I'm seeing a bunch of things pop up, I'm like, oh man, this is like a sign, right? And it sounds a little weird, but I think sometimes when I get into this book, I thought it was great that I got into this book again, because it was really what I needed to hear. And, for the last couple months, it's just life has just been kind of all over the place. It's been great. A lot of great things have happened. I've gotten promoted in my position, my new job. I'm doing something new. Started that on the 1st. So I've been learning and growing and all kinds of great stuff and just kind of different kinds of sales with business and all that stuff. So it was great to do that within my company, that I had, that I work for. And, I was creating a business and I had to kind of make that decision to kind of just shut that down because it wasn't really a priority at the time, right? Or it wasn't a priority and it was kind of getting in the way of everything else. It was something that I wasn't 100% bought into. And I think that's just not the best way to run a business. So I shut one of my businesses down and, I maybe haven't spent as much time here on Breathe Motivation, and I love doing this. This is a great platform to get out there. And, I just enjoyed this so much. And, it just I haven't gotten to it as much as I'd like to. And this really got me thinking, based on this book, just the first chapter or two, it was amazing because one of the things that they talk about is excuses. And, and I'm sure like every human being, we all make excuses, right? It was interesting to read this and it was just kind of eye-opening because there were so many things that I was looking at and, I try not to be too hard on myself. And I've told you guys about my anxiety, my panic attacks and all that stuff. And, I've in the last several months, 3-4 months, it's gotten a lot better because I'm not beating myself up. But as I started to think about all these things that are going on and, my personal life, there's some great things going on there. My professional life, great things are going on there. And I found myself making a lot of excuses. And I wanted to share that with you guys because I feel like it's important for you guys to know, I know this show, I talk about all the great things that happen and all these great things and positivity things that can happen. And yeah, there are a lot of positive things that can happen, but I also, like you, make excuses. And I found myself making excuses to, kind of just be lazy. And I don't like to be lazy. It's kind of a weird kind of thing. I like to always be on the move. And in the last couple months, I've just kind of been, I guess, just kind of recharging. It's been interesting. I haven't done as many episodes here and, I was like, man, I got to get in there to do it. And I've got to make it a priority. Right. And that's how we kind of overcome that excuse-itis, right? That's what they call it. It's the disease of failure. And it was interesting to see their take on, the excuses that we make in life. And I was reading and I was like, wow, man, this kind of hit me in my face. I was like, wow, that's kind of what I've been doing the last couple months. I'm making excuses to not do stuff, right? And I had to like kind of look at it and say, hey, what are the things that I want to set as priorities? What are things that I need to get done, or what are things that I want to get done? What do I enjoy? I have to kind of go back and do kind of like an inventory of my life and say, hey, is this working for me? If it's not, then why am I still doing it? When it came to the business, I was like, hey, I'm spending a lot of time in this, and it's not really producing the way I want it to, and maybe I'm just not putting enough effort into it. And I was coming up with excuses of why not to do this business while I was trying to create this business, which was again wasting my time, right? So there was a lot of excuses that I made, and it was interesting on how I got to this business, but and how we created the business. It was great. I love creating businesses. I love thinking of like the game plan, how are we going to execute this? And, at the time, like when I started, I was like, cool, I can start this. It can bring an extra income in. And it was just something that maybe I didn't have as much knowledge on. And it got kind of overwhelming. Like there was so much time spent on, building the website. I built the website, and, I spent a lot of time, and, all the websites I've done, I've built them up to what they are. And it takes time, it takes effort. And, I love that part of it, right? I love, creatively, it helps me to creatively, just put stuff out there, right? Kind of like this podcast. I love being creative, and it helps me to just kind of feel great in the process. But I noticed as I was thinking about this business, it wasn't something that I was enjoying doing, right? It got to a point where I was just like, man, like I'm putting all this time into it, but am I really enjoying it? And that was one of those things. Like I started creating excuses of why I couldn't get things done. Oh, well, I can't get enough customers because I don't know how to do social media. I don't have enough time. I got a full-time job, and then I got my wife, and then I got all these things going on. So I was looking for all these excuses of why not to do this business. And when you get to that point of making excuses, you've got to say, hey, man, is this really worth it? Right? That's something that I think a lot of us will just make excuses. And a lot of the times excuses are made out of fear, right? Fear of all kinds of things, either fear of success, fear of failure. I don't ever want to be, I don't ever want to look like I failed. And, I had to tell myself, with this business, it was a great learning experience, right? It really gave me the idea to like kind of sit back and say, hey, this money I invested in this business, maybe I could have invested it somewhere else and that I would have enjoyed more, right? So it opened to that. But, I look at it as like the money I invested, I was like, I could have spent this money on school, right? Or I could have spent this money somewhere else. And it was a great experience. It was a great learning process. And that's sometimes one of the greatest things there. But I had to stop making the excuse of all the reasons why I couldn't do something and really say, hey, is this a priority? And if it's not a priority, then why am I still doing it? Right? If I'm not having fun doing it, why am I still doing it? And I think a lot of us go through life doing a lot of things and making excuses of why we should be in that horrible relationship we're in, or that horrible job, or I'm spending all this time, watching TV, when I could be doing something else. I don't know. But I found myself in a lot of those things too, even with Breathe Motivation. It's kind of crazy, I was really consistent. Like I was doing it 7 days a week. And then I had to say, hey, I got to calm it down because there's a lot going on. But I was able to find time for this for 7 days a week, which was insane, right? But I found that time. So I was looking at these things and like all of the things that I enjoy doing, right? I've got to have, we all have 24 hours in a day, and we all have, 7 days a week to get it done in a week and whatnot. So I had to look at it and say, hey, what are my priorities, right? And your priorities will shift all the time. But as you look at your life, you got to be able to look at your priorities and say, hey, do I really want this? And if I really want it, why do I want it, right? I had a reason for starting that business, and I think it was more of just kind of learning the ins and outs of creating a business. I've created businesses, and it just didn't work out, and I just wasn't in it. And I had to say, you know what, it's time to bow out. And it was okay. And it was kind of one of those things, like it was almost a relief when I said, okay, maybe it's not the right business to be doing. And it like released this pressure off me, like, oh my gosh, I've been making all these excuses of why I need to continue to do this. I got to make more, I got to make money. I got to do all these things. But I was really fearful. I had a business partner, and I didn't want to tell him, hey man, I just got to bow out. I don't, cause you're relying on each other. And, we both came to the decision like, hey, maybe it's not the right time, and we'll continue to, maybe build this business up and maybe not go as full speed as we wanted to, but I had to say, hey man, we both had, we just like, hey, maybe this isn't the right time. So we both kind of stepped away from it, which, alleviated a lot of pressure. We like to put pressure on ourselves as humans. And that's one of those things, like, it's great to have that pressure, but when it starts to get in the way of other things, there's times where I would just like not do anything, right? I was binge watching TV, and I never binge watch TV. I was always reading books or doing, something proactive, being more involved with this show and doing more episodes. And, it just kind of took a lot of energy out of me. And I think that's something we got to be able to be well aware of. Look at those excuses. Are you afraid of failure? Are you afraid to say, man, this didn't work out the way I wanted it to? And a lot of the times, when you look at the things that you're worried about, you're stressed out about, it's really not worth it to be stressed out about it that much. That's what, with the anxiety and panic attacks I was having, I was so stressed out about things that, at the end of the day, they probably wouldn't have even mattered 5 years from now, right? It's not going to make a difference. You look back at it 5 years from now, you're going to be like, oh, what the hell was I so upset about, right? Or what was I so stressed about these things? And same thing, sometimes it's like, man, why am I so stressed about this? I'm not even going to be stressed about it, in a week. So you've got to be able to prioritize your thoughts. You got to be able to prioritize your feelings on things. And, one of the 4 things, this was 4 things that they kind of picked out on this excuse-itis in this book was like, when I look at it, I've made all these excuses like money, right? When I started a business, it's like, man, I don't have enough money to go, to do this, to build a business, right? If you're really, dedicated to growing a business, guess what? It's going to take time. It's going to take money. It's going to take these things, but it doesn't all have to come at once. I think we all are looking for this instant gratification, which, can be a great thing sometimes because it gets you moving, but you've got to look at the long game. We're so, used to these instant, things with social media, everybody's liking your page and you're like, yeah, you feel good. It's like a release of greatness. And then you're like, man, okay, now what? Right. We're all looking for, that instant success, but over time, these things, create themselves, or they don't create themselves. It creates from hard work that you're doing day to day, right? We got to start looking at at that day to day and really ask ourselves, hey, how committed are we to this? What is the priorities of what can I handle right now? And if you can't handle some of these things, maybe it's best not to start, right? But I would tell you, get started on something, whether it's, taking 10 minutes a day to read a book that's going to help you run a business or help you within a relationship or help you to find a new job. Take time to be able to do that, but prioritize time that's going to help you eliminate the excuses, because excuses, you start one excuse, right? And then it turns into 10. And it's, it's just kind of one of those annoyances that continues to grow and grow and grow. And then all of a sudden you're not doing anything because you made all these excuses. So you've got to be able to look at within yourself and say, hey, what am I afraid of? Because excuses are built out of fear. And they're that's what it is. And a lot of times it's fear of failure, right? We've all been there. We wanted to ask somebody out on a date and, you get so nervous and you're like, man, I'm going to do it today. And then you find some excuse like, oh, what if the person says no? Oh, then, it gets awkward and all this stuff. And next thing you know, 6 months goes by and now they've got a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever, and you missed your chance, right? So you've got to be able to eliminate those excuses and, just go for it sometimes. Take that step, It doesn't have to be a big step. Just take one step towards your goal and make sure that you're really focused on what you need to do. And you'll find greatness within that. So just get out there, stop making excuses, set your priorities. I think that's a big deal, is creating the priorities and knowing where you should focus on. And just find and have fun in life. You just got to have fun in life, do the things that you want to do and stop worrying so much and creating excuses. It just creates more and more trouble for you. So get out there, do the best you can. So let me leave you this quote: your excuses are just lies your fears have sold you. That's Robin Sharma. So follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Breathe Motivate. Like my page on Facebook, Breathe Motivation. Check out my website, breathemotivation.com. You can reach out to me at Anthony Hester at breathemotivation.com. or any social media platform. And as always, remember to breathe motivation and exhale success. And I'll see you later. Thanks.